I'm 104 years old. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I'd make it this far, and there were years when I wasn't sure I wanted to. But I'm still here, and the reason isn't what you'd expect. It's not diet, it's not exercise, it's not clean living or good genes or any of the things people usually ask me about when they find out how old I am. Those things might have helped, sure, but they're not what kept me breathing when breathing felt like the hardest thing in the world. What kept me alive was spite. I know how that sounds, but I need to tell you this while I still can, because spite, real spite, the kind that runs deep and quiet, is the most misunderstood force I've ever known. And I've watched it save lives, including mine. Let me go back. I was born in 1922. My father died when I was 11. Influenza. My mother worked herself half to death keeping me and my two sisters fed. We lived in an apartment in Brooklyn that was so cold in winter you could see your breath indoors. I remember my older sister Dorothy sleeping in two coats. When I was 19, I enlisted. This was 1941, right after Pearl Harbor. I wasn't brave. I was angry. Angry at the world for being what it was. Angry at my father for dying. Angry at myself for not being able to fix anything. The war didn't make me less angry. It just gave me a place to put it. I came back in 1945, 23 years old. I got a job at a warehouse in Red Hook. Lifting, loading, nothing fancy. I married a woman named Evelyn in 1947. She was a secretary at the shipping company next door. We had a daughter, Patricia, in 1949. I thought I'd gotten it together, thought I'd figured out how to live a normal life, but the anger never left. It just sat there, quiet, waiting. In 1956, my supervisor, a man named Leo Brennan, worked with him for 8 years, told me I'd never make shift lead because I didn't have the temperament. He said it in front of the whole crew. I was 34 years old, and I felt like I was 11 again, watching my father's coffin go into the ground. I could have quit, could have let it break me. Instead, I decided I'd outlast him. I'd show up every single day, do the work better than anyone, and I'd be there long after he was gone. And I was. Leo had a heart attack in 1961, died at his desk, 52 years old. I didn't feel good about it, but I kept working. That same year, my mother got sick, cancer. She was 68. I visited her every Sunday at the hospital in Flatbush. She lasted 4 months. The day before she died, she looked at me and said, "You're so angry, Tommy. You've been angry your whole life." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. She died the next morning. I went back to work the following Monday. Evelyn asked me if I was okay. I said I was fine. She knew I wasn't, but she didn't push. That's how I lived for a long time. I kept going because stopping felt like losing. In 1973, my daughter Patricia got married. She was 24. The man she married, Richard, was a teacher. Nice enough guy. I didn't like him, but I didn't like much of anything back then. They had a son in 1975, my grandson, Michael. Evelyn was over the moon. She wanted to babysit, wanted to be involved. I told her to go ahead. I worked 6 days a week. Didn't have time for that. Michael grew up. I saw him at Christmas, sometimes Easter. He was a quiet kid, smart, looked like Patricia. In 1983, Evelyn had a stroke. She was 61. It didn't kill her, but it changed her. She couldn't speak right anymore. Half her face didn't move. I took care of her, drove her to appointments, made her meals, but I didn't talk to her much. I didn't know how. She lived another 6 years like that. Died in 1989, 67 years old. The house was very quiet after that. Patricia called me every week, asked if I wanted to come over for dinner. I usually said no. I had things to do. That's what I told her. The truth was, I didn't know how to sit at a table and pretend everything was fine. So I kept working. I was 67, 68. The warehouse job was long gone, but I did maintenance work, fixed things, painted, stayed busy. In 1995, my friend Vincent, knew him 43 years, met him at the VFW Hall in 1952, told me he was sick, lung cancer. He'd smoked since he was 15. He said, "Tommy, I don't want to die." I said, "Nobody does." He asked me if I was scared of dying. I told him no. I told him I was more scared of living without a reason. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." Vincent died 3 months later. He was 74. I went to the funeral. Patricia was there with Richard and Michael. Michael was 20 by then, in college. He shook my hand, said it was good to see me. I didn't know what to say to him, so I just nodded. After the funeral, Patricia pulled me aside. She said, "Dad, are you okay?" I said I was fine. She said, "You always say that." I didn't have an answer for her. In 2001, Patricia called me. It was late, maybe 10 at night. She was crying. She told me Richard had left her, just packed up and moved in with someone from work after 28 years. She said, "Dad, I don't know what to do. I should have driven over there, should have sat with her, should have told her I loved her and that she'd be okay. Instead, I told her she'd figure it out, that she was strong, that she didn't need him anyway." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Okay, Dad, thanks." We hung up. I sat there in the dark and I thought about Evelyn, about my mother, about Vincent. I thought about all the times I could have said something and didn't, but I didn't call Patricia back. I kept living the way I always had, one day then the next, working, fixing things, staying busy. In 2008, I fell off a ladder, broke my hip. I was 86. They told me I might not walk again, told me recovery at my age was unlikely. I decided I wasn't going to die in a hospital bed, so I did the physical therapy every single day, even when it hurt so bad I wanted to scream. Even when the therapist, a young woman named Claire, told me to take a break, I didn't take breaks. I walked again. Took me 7 months, but I did it. Claire asked me why I pushed so hard. I told her I wasn't done yet. She said, "Done with what?" I didn't have an answer. In 2012, Michael called me. He was 37 by then, married, 2 kids of his own. He said he wanted to bring his family to visit, said his kids had never really met me. I told him that was fine. They came the following Sunday. His wife's name was Jennifer. His kids were 5 and 8, a boy and a girl. We sat in my living room. It was awkward. I didn't know what to say to children. Didn't know what to say to Michael, really. Jennifer asked me about the war. I told her a little. Not much. The kids got bored and played in the yard. Before they left, Michael said, "Grandpa, Mom talks about you a lot. She wishes you'd come around more." I said I'd think about it. I didn't go around more. In 2016, Patricia had a heart attack. She was 67 years old, same age Evelyn was when she died. Michael called me from the hospital. He said, "Grandpa, you need to come. It's bad." I drove there. Took me 40 minutes. My hands were shaking the whole time. When I got there, Patricia was in the ICU. Tubes everywhere, machines beeping. Michael said the doctors weren't sure she'd make it through the night. I sat next to her bed. I held her hand. It was cold. I stayed there for 6 hours. I didn't leave. She woke up around 3 in the morning, looked at me. Her voice was so quiet I could barely hear her. She said, "You came." I said, "Of course I came." She said, "I thought you wouldn't." That broke something in me I didn't know was still whole. Patricia lived. She made it through. But something changed in me that night. I started visiting her once a week, then twice. I met her for lunch. I called her on Thursdays just to talk. She never said anything about all the years I didn't. She just seemed glad I was there. In 2019, I turned 97. Patricia threw me a birthday party. Small thing. Just her, Michael, Jennifer, the great-grandkids, some neighbors. Michael made a speech. He said I was the toughest man he'd ever known. I didn't feel tough. I felt tired, but I also felt something else, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I felt like I wanted to stay, not because I had to prove something, not because I was angry at the world, but because I wanted to see what happened next, wanted to see Patricia smile again, wanted to hear my great-granddaughter Emma tell me about school. It sounds small, but it wasn't small to me. That's what I mean when I say spite kept me alive. For most of my life, I stayed alive because I refused to let the world beat me. I refused to quit, refused to break, refused to give anyone the satisfaction of watching me fall. And that spite, it got me through the war, through losing my father, my mother, Evelyn, through every day that felt too heavy to carry. But somewhere along the way, the spite changed. It wasn't about proving anything anymore. It was about staying for the people I loved, about refusing to leave Patricia alone, about being there when Michael needed me, even if I didn't know how to say it. Spite became stubbornness, and stubbornness became love. I'm 104 now. I've outlived almost everyone I ever knew. Vincent's been gone 29 years. Evelyn, 35. My sisters, both gone. But Patricia's still here, Michael's here, his kids are growing up, and I'm still here too. If I could go back, I would have learned this sooner. I would have understood that surviving isn't the same as living, that staying alive out of anger will carry you far, but it won't carry you home. What I didn't understand was that spite and love aren't opposites. Spite is what keeps you standing when everything's trying to knock you down. Love is what you find when you realize you're still standing. If you're young and you're angry and you feel like the world's against you, that's okay. Use it. Let it keep you going. But don't let it be the only thing. Because one day you'll wake up and realize you've spent 50 years fighting battles that don't matter, and the people who did matter are gone. I was lucky. I got another chance. Patricia survived. I had time to show up. Not everyone gets that. I don't have much time left. I know that. My body's failing in ways I can't fix. Some mornings it takes me an hour just to get out of bed. But I'm glad I'm still here. Glad I stayed long enough to understand the difference. If this meant something, I'm glad I told you. 2 books I'd recommend if you're interested. The first is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's about surviving the worst and finding reasons to keep going. The second is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's about a father and son, and it's brutal, but it's about love in the hardest circumstances. Both of those meant something to me. If you've got thoughts or your own story, I'd be glad to hear it. Leave a comment if you're willing. There are more stories like this on this channel. Other people who've lived long enough to see the truth. I'm 104. I've been angry, and I've been stubborn, and I've been wrong about a lot of things, but I'm still here, and that's something.